Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking about keeping our minds and our hands busy. So I'll just give it a couple minutes for a couple more people to join, but I hope everybody's having a lovely Tuesday evening. Hello, good evening. Yeah, and just a heads up, if you want to follow along with the activity that we're going to be doing today, I would just recommend having one piece of 8.5 by 11 paper for the craft that we're going to be doing. One piece is enough for 2 people. So one piece of paper per 2 people, or you can always make 2 of the craft that we're doing. So yeah, I'll just give it another minute maybe. And yeah, if you missed the beginning, today we're going to be talking about cognitive exercises and keeping your brain busy as you age and some of the benefits of that. And then I'll be taking you through an activity that is an example of kind of an unstructured, informal cognitive exercise that anybody can do just to keep their brains active. Thank you all again also for joining tonight on this Tuesday evening. I'll give it one more minute. For those people that are here, I'll just introduce myself really quickly. My name is Nikki. I'm a first-year medical student at the University of Ottawa. I'm from Toronto, and I did my undergrad at McGill. So yeah, I've done a lot of my research in neuroscience, as well as cardiology, but neuroscience is something that I was particularly interested in my last couple of years of undergrad. So what we're talking about today is right up my alley. So with that, I think we'll get started. So hello again. Today we're talking about cognitive exercises, mental activity, and how they can help our brain as we age. So a little bit of background as to why we're going to talk about that. Basically, with age, as I'm sure most people are aware, there comes the risk of certain mental decline diseases associated with that. So just a couple examples would be like Alzheimer's, dementia, just general like memory loss. And while a lot of those are associated with things that we can't control, like genetics, environmental factors that are beyond our control, such as like socioeconomic factors, there are some things that we can do to help. And one of those things is mental activity. So basically, studies have found that mental activity can help improve cognition. And when I say cognition, I mean like our ability to think, to learn, to make decisions, things like that. And mental activities can also help brain function and structure. And this is really important because as we age, there are structural changes that happen in our brain, and those structural changes are associated with age-related decline in mental function. So, for example, our cortex of our brain, or just the thinking part of our brain really, decreases in volume slightly as we age. And that's because of decreased synapses between the neurons. So synapses are the connections between our neurons. And it's also because of neurons shrinking. And now this is a very minor thing, and it happens in healthy aging, so it's not anything to be worried about. but it is good to have some tools to try prevent it or mitigate it, and just to keep our brains active so that we can remain as cognitively sharp as we would like to be. Studies have also found that people that engage in brain training have better connectivity in the brain. So those synapses that I was talking about are stronger when you do brain training, and they also have improved blood flow to the brain. And that improved blood flow is really important for supporting brain health and the activity of the brain, how fast our brains can work. And so some observational studies have noticed that there might be a correlation between cognitive engagement and a decreased Alzheimer's risk. So that's another reason why it's good to keep your brain active to try decrease your risk for these diseases later on. They also just have a number of other really good benefits, such as improving our memory. And I will say research into this is still relatively new, and a lot of the research based around cognitive training uses like computer games or specific exercises that are set up by the researchers, which aren't super accessible for people at home. But there are tools that we can implement in our everyday lives, and that will help keep our brains active. So some things to also note before we get started with the activity. When I'm talking about brain training in our context, I'm really just saying anything that keeps our brains active. So feel free to brainstorm in the chat some activities that might be included in that. So some things that I came up with are just reading regularly, whether that be like the newspaper or having a novel that you like to read, or nonfiction's also great for those that like to read that kind of book. Some other things that you could do that I would consider good brain training and good cognitive stimulation would be like crosswords. Sudoku's really great. Things like solitaire. My grandfather used to always play solitaire, and it really helped keep his brain sharp. And puzzles are also great for just like a light cognitive exercise. They're social too, so staying socially active also helps with cognition, partly because conversations can help boost your mood and things like that. So just another thing to consider would be maybe try something like volunteering, or just making an effort to call people or visit people. Some other good ideas are strategy-based games, so like chess or checkers or things like that. Something that my dad has tried to do is to try learn a new language. Now that's definitely a little bit more time-consuming of a mental exercise, but there are ways to kind of make that easier, like downloading an app like Duolingo, or taking an online course, or just writing letters, like that simple act of writing things out, putting thoughts to paper. That's all going to stimulate cognition in your brain, and that stimulation is going to help improve the connectivity in our brain, help mitigate that volume loss that happens with age, and overall be really beneficial for our brain health as we get older. So one of the other things that I was thinking is a good cognitive exercise is making crafts. Ooh, that sounds really fun. The strategy-based puzzle books. That sounds like a really good cognitive exercise. I know there's a couple, they're more geared towards children, but if anybody's ever read like the Mysterious Benedict Society books, the author of those books has like a puzzle book for children, which honestly they're hard enough that they could go for any age. So if you want a little bit of like a storyline as well as having like mind puzzles and mind games to work on, that's another great resource to go to. But one of the things that I was thinking is a great cognitive exercise is learning to do crafts. So this is something that I know my mom has revisited as she's found herself with more free time. And they're really good if you're trying, like you can try different crafts. There's so many tools on the internet, so it's a really accessible, easy to do cognitive exercise, and there's so many that don't involve getting a bunch of supplies. So, for example, today, if you missed it at the beginning, we're going to be doing some origami because that's a great cognitive exercise. You can start at a beginner's level and work your way up to an advanced level. And I know when I was trying out origami patterns for this, my brain was definitely stimulated and I was definitely having some trouble learning how to do some of these. And all you need is a piece of paper, which I hope is accessible. So today we're going to be making origami frogs. My mom actually taught me how to do this. So again, great cognitive exercise for all ages. So if you have it handy, grab your 8.5 by 11 paper. I'm just going to tilt the camera down so you can hopefully see my desk. And I'll demonstrate like this, and I'll flip the camera up occasionally. But yeah, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do with your 8.5 by 11 paper is we're going to turn it into a square. So take one of the corners and fold it, making a perfect diagonal line so that this corner, the edges line up like that. So you should have basically a folded triangle with a little bit of a rectangle at the bottom. I'll move that up a bit. This folded triangle is the square of paper that we're going to be using. So to turn our paper into a square, fold up that rectangle at the bottom so that it meets the line that you made when you folded it originally. And we're going to use that as a guide to cut or rip our paper into a square. So I prefer to just rip it. I find I can usually get a much straighter line when I rip it. So I'll fold it on both sides. I'll unfold the cross. Remember, we're not tearing it along this diagonal. We're tearing it along the horizontal fold we've made over here. So start here and turn your piece into a square. Okay, so everyone should have a square of paper, and we're actually going to turn it into a rectangle now. So some origami patterns use a square. Personally, the way that I was taught, I use a rectangle for the frog. I find it makes it a little bit easier. So take your piece of paper and fold it in half across. Make that fold really clean. Fold it on both sides. And then again, rip it down the middle along that straight vertical line. Great, so you can, if you're doing this craft with somebody else, share the two pieces of paper so each person gets one. If not, just put one aside. That can be your backup, and save this piece of paper for yourself. So the first thing you're going to do is on the side that's folded up by the diagonal fold that we already made, we're going to fold this paper in half. Just once, like that. So everyone should have a piece of folded paper like this, and then unfold it. Okay, then flip it over to sorry, we're not flipping it yet. So keep it on that same side. You just unfolded it. And we're going to make diagonal folds on both sides of the half. So take the top corner, the corner furthest away from you, and fold that down to meet the horizontal line that you folded in the middle. Make a crease there and then unfold it. We're just making folds that we're going to be using later in the frog. And then take the other corner, so the top left corner that's furthest away from you, and give that a fold down to the opposite side so that you're making another diagonal crease. Like that. Once you make your crease, you can unfold it. I like to flip my paper around, so now the unfolded side is facing away from me. And we've still got the same side up, and then do the same thing. So take the top corner and fold it down to the middle line so that we've got a straight edge, and make a diagonal fold there. And then open it up, and then take the other side and make a fold towards that middle crease. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Origami is definitely a good mental exercise, so it can be a little tough, but it's a lot of fun. And I love personally doing origami animals because I find it's another good opportunity for another cognitive exercise. Just really quickly, it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about the animals that you're folding. So for me, this was kind of an add-on cognitive exercise where I was doing some research and reading about frogs. So we'll throw in some fun facts about frogs while we're making these. Okay, so we've made diagonal lines. Everyone should have a piece of paper that looks like this. Now, take that paper and flip it over so that all the folds are facing downwards. We're just going to be here briefly. So take the top corner, the top side furthest away from you and fold it into the middle line. Like that. Just make a crease there and then open it up. And do the same with the bottom half. So fold the bottom half up to the middle folded line, making a crease, and then unfold it. Once you have made those two folds, take your piece of paper and fold it back over, flip it over to the other side again. So we've made all the folds that we need. And now we're going to go ahead and start making the shape of the frog. So what you're going to do is with the edge that's further away from you, pinch those sides in like this, so inwards, and fold them down to make a triangle like that. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So with this other side, take those two corners, the two sides, with the folds that we just made and pinch them in, and then fold your triangle flat along those diagonal lines that we made. Perfect. So everyone should have a diamond with a crease in the middle like this. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start making the legs. So take one of the corners and fold it up towards the opposite corner. So I'm taking this corner, this corner over here, and I'm folding it towards that one furthest away from me, the point of the diamond. Once you do that, so I folded this one up right here, I'm going to take that corner that I just folded and I'm going to fold it backwards on itself so that the side that's currently in the middle right here lies along its own edge. So I'm folding it backwards to make the crease like this. You're going to do that on all four of the corners. So take the other side, fold it up, like that. And then once you fold it up, take that top corner right here and fold it back to the middle. Perfect. So we've done two of them. Do that again with the other two sides. So fold it up and then fold it back. This is just making the legs, and then do that on the last corner. So fold it up and fold it back. So we're almost there. That was the hardest part. So everyone should have something that looks like this. These little flaps right here for the legs. Okay, So now that we have that, we have our legs, we're going to make the shape of the body now. So I'm going to turn this back down. Flip your origami frog so that the legs are down on the table. Now you're going to take, you should have the like the points, the flat line of the legs should be like forward and backwards. So you're going to take the corner that's far away from the legs and you're going to fold it in towards the middle. So again, you make a straight line along the middle like that, and then you're going to do that with the other side. So now you've got kind of like a narrow diamond. It looks like a kite in the middle. I've got something that looks like this. You're going to take this tip furthest, closest towards you, and you're going to fold it up just a little bit, as much, so mine looks like that. And then you're going to take that little tip that you folded up and you're going to tuck it under the little wings that you just made. And then we're almost there. For the last step, what you're going to do is flip the frog over. So now it's belly up. And right along this crease, this paper crease right here, give that a fold in half. And then take the bum of the frog and give it a fold back down towards you. Just like that. And then flip it over. I folded mine a little too far. There we go. Flip it over, and now you have your jumping frog. So they're really fun if you make them for kids, or they're just really fun to make as yourself because they can jump. Hold on. This one doesn't want to jump. Let me show you another one that I've made. The frogs like to jump across the table. So when my mom and I made these, we were having big frog jumping contests. So yeah, give yours a try. But that was a fun cognitive exercise. Origami is great because there's lots of intricate folds, and especially if you're following instructions that you found online. I know for me that was a big cognitive exercise. Oh yay, so glad your frog worked. My first one definitely didn't, and you can see they don't always turn out perfectly because my last one doesn't want to jump. But it's really fun to keep trying it over and over again and seeing, oh, there we go, I made it jump. And trying new patterns. If you're interested in also using it as an opportunity to start doing some research about animals, because that's another really great cognitive exercise. The WWF, I found the website has a lot of origami patterns, and they're all based on like you make patterns of extinct animals, sorry, not extinct, endangered animals, and they'll have information about the animal too. So I tried out making like a monarch butterfly and a type of dolphin. So that was really fun. And I'll just close off with some fun facts about frogs that I looked up while I was learning how to make origami frogs. So fun fact, some types of frogs can leap up to 20 times more than their body length. So if you want to give it a try with one of your origami frogs that you made, try measure it and see if it'll go 20 times its own body length. And also there's a type of frog from Costa Rica called a red-eyed tree frog that can actually jump from tree to tree, and it sticks to the leaves using the help of suction cups and webbing on its really brightly colored feet. And then a fun fact about frogs a little closer to home, there are over 5,000 species of frogs in the world, but only 25 of them live in Canada. And of those 25, 7 of those are tree frogs. And that's because Canada's a lot colder than frogs tend to like. So I hope everybody had fun making origami today and keeping their brains active. If you want, there's a ton of origami patterns on the internet. Give some of those other activities that we were talking about before, like puzzles, board games, chess, reading, writing letters, Sudoku, like give those a try, and keep those brains active and improve that brain connectivity. All right, thank you so much everybody for joining. I hope everyone has a lovely Tuesday.